Imagine a world where your thoughts are not your own, where the words you speak can lead to your demise, where your very existence is at the mercy of another. This isn't the plot of a dystopian novel. For most of human history, it was reality. The idea that you as an individual possess inherent inalienable rights is a revolutionary concept, one forged in the fires of oppression, debated in the halls of power, and paid for with the blood of countless unknown heroes. How did we journey from a world ruled by the divine right of kings to one where we dare to declare that all humans are born free and equal? This is the epic story of that struggle, the evolution of human rights. Our journey begins not with a grand declaration, but with a whisper. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great, after conquering Babylon, did something unprecedented. Instead of slaughter and subjugation, he freed the slaves, declared that all people had the right to choose their own religion, and established racial equality. These decrees were recorded on a baked clay cylinder, known today as the Cyrus Cylinder. Some scholars hail it as the world's first charter of human rights. While its primary purpose might have been political propaganda, the seed of an idea was planted. A ruler's power could be limited, and people possessed certain fundamental freedoms. This idea traveled. From Mesopotamia, it journeyed to India with the Edicts of Ashoka, and west to Greece. Here, in the cradle of democracy, philosophers like the Stoics developed the concept of natural law. They argued that there are universal, unwritten laws that govern humanity, laws that even rulers must obey. This wasn't about the rights given by a king, but about the rights inherent to being human. Rome inherited and expanded upon this, codifying natural law into its vast legal system. But these were still largely philosophical ideals, often ignored in a world of brutal gladiator games and widespread slavery. The concept was there, but its application was a distant dream. For the next 1,000 years, this dream seemed to fade. The fall of Rome and the rise of feudalism in Europe created a rigid hierarchy. Your rights were determined by your birth. If you were a serf, you were bound to the land and its lord. The idea of individual liberty was overshadowed by duties and obligations, yet even in these so-called Dark Ages, the flame flickered. In 1215, on a field at Runnymede, a group of rebellious English barons forced the tyrannical King John to sign a document that would echo through the ages, the Magna Carta. The Great Charter was not a democratic manifesto for the common person. It was primarily about protecting the privileges of the nobility, but it contained principles of monumental importance. It established that everyone, including the king, was subject to the law. It included clauses protecting against illegal imprisonment and guaranteeing a right to a trial by one's peers. For the first time, a written constitution formally limited the power of a monarch and recognized certain liberties. The Magna Carta became a potent symbol, a reference point for all future generations, fighting for freedom against arbitrary rule. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment blew the embers of this idea into a blazing fire. Thinkers like John Locke in England championed the concept of natural rights, specifically the rights to life, liberty, and property. He argued that governments are formed by the consent of the governed, not by divine will, and their sole purpose is to protect these rights. If a government fails to do so, the people have the right to overthrow it. This was revolutionary, dangerous talk. Across the Atlantic, these ideas found fertile ground. In 1776, American colonists, feeling their rights as Englishmen were being trampled by a distant king, declared their independence. Thomas Jefferson, channeling Locke, penned the immortal words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The American Revolution was a real-world test of these Enlightenment ideals. Just a few years later, in 1789, a similar storm erupted in France. Fueled by famine, inequality, and the American example, French revolutionaries issued their own Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. It proclaimed that men are born and remain free and equal in rights. It enshrined principles like freedom of speech, religion, and the press. The French Revolution, though it descended into a period of extreme violence, broadcast these ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity across Europe and beyond, shaking the foundations of absolute monarchies everywhere. But there was a glaring contradiction at the heart of these noble declarations. Jefferson, the man who wrote that all men are created equal, was a slaveholder. The rights of man in France did not initially extend to women, nor to the enslaved people in its vast colonies. The 19th century became a battleground to expand the definition of who was entitled to these rights. The abolitionist movement fought a long, brutal struggle to end the scourge of slavery. Suffragettes like Susan B. Anthony and Emmeline Pankhurst marched, protested, and suffered imprisonment to win the right to vote for women. Slowly, painstakingly, the circle of rights holders began to widen. Then came the 20th century, and with it, horrors on a scale previously unimaginable. 2 world wars, the Holocaust, and the actions of totalitarian regimes revealed a terrifying truth. Without international protection, national laws could be twisted or discarded, leaving millions defenseless. The world watched in shock as humanity's capacity for barbarism was laid bare. In the aftermath of World War II, the newly formed United Nations knew it had to act. A global consensus emerged that peace could only be built on a foundation of justice and human rights. Led by figures like Eleanor Roosevelt, a committee drafted a document that would become the cornerstone of modern human rights law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Adopted in 1948, the UDHR was a milestone. For the first time in history, the international community agreed upon a comprehensive list of 30 fundamental rights and freedoms that belong to every single person on Earth, regardless of race, religion, nationality, or any other status. The UDHR isn't a legally binding treaty, but it is a powerful moral and political standard, a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations. It has inspired hundreds of treaties, national constitutions, and laws around the globe. It was the foundation for the civil rights movement in the United States, the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, and countless other movements for freedom and dignity. Of course, the declaration of these rights is not the same as their reality. Today, the fight continues. We see it in the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights, for the rights of indigenous peoples, for climate justice, and for digital privacy in an age of surveillance. The story of human rights is not a finished chapter in a history book. It is a living, breathing, and often difficult narrative that we are all a part of. It's a reminder that progress is never guaranteed. It must be defended, fought for, and expanded by each new generation. The journey from the Cyrus Cylinder to the Universal Declaration is a testament to the enduring power of a simple, radical idea, that every human life has inherent worth and dignity. Our shared future depends on our willingness to continue that journey. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the history that shapes our world. Your support helps us continue to tell these vital stories. We'll see you next time.